Prabhupada Paramahamsa Gurusaya Sota Sota Shishmachila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Subhad Paramahamsa Gurusaya Sota Sota Shishmachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Anantaguri Vaishnavaringa Ki Sirup Si Sanatan Bhatta Raghunathi Ji Gopalabhutta Das Saraghunath Sari Goswami Prabhu Ki प्रेम से कौशि कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवगण गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ चांद कुंद राधा कुंद गुरु गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की मैथुन धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की गंगे यमुना देवी की हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की श्री श्री गौरीता की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल सामरित भक्त वृंद की all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from the Bhagavad-gītā as it is, 4th chapter, text number 41. Yoga-sannyasta-karmāṇaṁ jñāna-sañchinna-saṁśayam ātma-vantam na karmāṇi nibadhnanti dhanam-jaya yoga-sannyasta-karmāṇaṁ jñāna-sañchinna-saṁśayam ātma-vantam na karmāṇi nibadhnanti dhanam-jaya yoga-sannyasta-karmāṇaṁ jñāna-sañchinna-saṁśayam ātma-vantam na karmāṇi nibadhnanti dhanam-jaya. Mataji's. Yoga by devotional service in karma yoga. Sannyasta, one who has renounced. Karmāṇam, the fruits of actions. Jnana, by knowledge. Sañchinna, cut. Saṁśayam, doubts. Ātma-vantam, situated in the self. Na, never. Karmāṇi, works. Nibadhnanti, to bind. Dhanam-jaya, or conqueror of riches. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation, one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus is not bound by the reactions of work or conqueror of riches. Purport. One who follows the instruction of the Bhagavad-gītā, as it is imparted by the Lord, the Personality of Godhead Himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord in full Kṛṣṇa consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, is undoubtedly above bondage to action. Om ajñānati-midam tasya jñāna-sañchinna-saṁśayam chakṣuranmritam yanam tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya-manobhistam sthapitam yena bhutale sayam rupamayam tadati sabadantikam vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavascha Sirupam Sagridatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Sadivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parjana-sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Kṛṣṇa Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vichaganvitamscha. He Kṛṣṇa Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Govika Kanta Radha Kanta Vastade Tatta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrijabhanu Sudevi Pranamani Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Yevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Śrīvāsadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yoga-sannyasta-karmāṇaṁ jñāna-sañchinna-saṁśayam ātma-vantam na karmāṇi nibadhnanti dhanam-jaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus is not bound by the reactions of work or conqueror of riches. In this chapter, Kṛṣṇa is giving Arjuna transcendental knowledge. Also, he has been explaining to Arjuna that this transcendental knowledge is received in the disciplic succession. And he told Arjuna in the beginning of this chapter that in the beginning I spoke this Bhagavad-gītā to the sun god, Vivaswan, and then he gave it to the father of mankind, Ikshvaku. And in this way that the knowledge has been received in disciplic succession. And then he has explained sometimes the knowledge actually gets lost in due course of time. because of the influence of the world's material nature. Because sometimes the qualified persons are not there to give this knowledge. But then again, by Krishna's will, a great person will be coming and he will continue giving this transcendental knowledge. So either Kṛṣṇa himself is giving the knowledge, or one of his expansions, or a pure devotee, as is explained also in text number 34 to Arjuna, that one should approach his spirit master, the representative of the Lord, in order to get this transcendental knowledge. And then he's nicely explaining that if one has transcendental knowledge, then actually one becomes free from all doubts, sañcayam. And ātma-vantam, one is properly situated. That Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Lord, and that I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, and I have a relationship with Kṛṣṇa. So that is a proper situation, situated in the self. Being a spirit soul and having a relationship with the Supreme Soul, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when one has attained this human form of life, one has to try not only to get this knowledge, but then also to realize the subject matter. As Kṛṣṇa or Vishnu also spoke to Lord Brahma, as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second chapter, second canto, 9th chapter, before the Chatushloki, the four most important verses of the Bhagavatam. So, the Supreme Lord is speaking to Lord Brahma, jñānam param guyamye sa-vijñānam samanvitam tadangasya rahasyam cha gayena katitam maya. So that I'm giving you this knowledge, which is very confidential. With it I'm giving the realization and the process also. So the different angles of devotional service are there. And as Rupa Goswami has explained, 64, and the first is Guru Padashraya, taking shelter of the Spirit Master. Of course, Arjuna was very fortunate. He got the knowledge from the Supreme Lord Himself, the source of all knowledge. But the pure devotees who are the embodiment of Krishna's mercy, Kṛṣṇa Kripa Sri Murti, they are empowered by Kṛṣṇa to distribute this knowledge to the common man. So, in this verse specifically, Kṛṣṇa is telling Arjuna that one has to engage in devotional service, yoga, connecting with the Lord. Yoga means to link in devotional service. Prabhupada is writing here in the word for word, devotional service in karma yoga. In the beginning one may not be able to fully surrender to Kṛṣṇa, but one is working and one is understanding that I have to work for Kṛṣṇa, I have to serve Kṛṣṇa. That is karma yoga. And then by gaining knowledge, jnana yoga, which is very important to acquire transcendental knowledge, then one can be properly situated. One has to hear about the process of devotional service, how to advance. And one has to hear about Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Tattva, and about also, of course, the material world, and the process of devotional service, and the conclusion of the scriptures, Siddhanta, and then also, especially if one wants to go to the highest planet, Golok Vrindavan, one has to hear about the platform of spontaneous devotional service, rasa tattva. So the spiritual master is knowledgeable in all aspects of knowledge of the absolute truth. He's Shastravit, he knows the Shastras. Siddhantavit, he knows the conclusions. Rasa-tattavit, is engaged in pure devotional service, in Braj Bhav, so he can help the devotees to also enter that realm. So, jñāna-sañchinna-saṁśayam. So one has to engage in devotional service, and by doing that, and especially is mentioning renouncing, sannyasta, by renouncing the fruits of one's activities. So one is working, one is getting some result by working. But then one should not be attached to the result, and one should not keep it for oneself only. But then one has to give something to Kṛṣṇa, because ultimately everything is coming to Kṛṣṇa, everything belongs to Kṛṣṇa, and everything should be done for Kṛṣṇa's pleasure. So, of course, somebody may be thinking that, but I need something to sustain in this material world. I have to take care of my family. Yes. That is there, but by surrendering to Kṛṣṇa, then whatever is needed one will get sufficiently. So that is actually bhakti yoga, to surrender everything to Kṛṣṇa and to depend on Kṛṣṇa. Having faith that Kṛṣṇa will provide whatever we need. And Kṛṣṇa himself has also explained further on in the 9th chapter, Ananya-cintantamam yajanapaya pasate teshtam nitya-vyuttamam yoga-kṣemam vahamyaham. To those who are constantly devoted to me. To them, I preserve what they have, they can keep what they have, and whatever they lack, whatever they need, I will supply. So Kṛṣṇa himself is promising. And Kṛṣṇa is the source of everything. Bhaktaram yatitapasam sarvarokamaeshwaram, everything belongs to him. So whatever we need, he will very easily, he can give us. So jnana, so one should be situated in knowledge that we are spirit soul, that we belong to Kṛṣṇa, and so we should have faith, vishwas, clear vishwas, strong faith that whatever we need, Kṛṣṇa will supply. In every way, not only physically, so that we can live happy in this world, so we can take care of the family, but also in the spiritual aspect, how to advance in spiritual life. Kṛṣṇa will give that knowledge. Kṛṣṇa will, from within the heart, he will guide, or he will send the spiritual master who will give knowledge how we can advance more and more in our spiritual life. So ātma-vantam, one should be situated in the self, beyond the gross and subtle material body. And so theoretically we can understand, but practically to be always situated on the transcendental platform is not so easy. But we have to practice on a daily basis. Actually, every moment we have to be aware, we have to be conscious that I'm in this body, I'm spirit soul. We should be in that consciousness. Dasyam, I am in the eternal servant of Kṛṣṇa. Ultimately, I have nothing to do with this material world. But now I'm in this material world, and actually in the material world, everyone is suffering. Sometimes a little more, sometimes less. The threefold miseries are there. But if by good fortune we understand, not only theoretically, but if we can have some realization then we can overcome the difficulties which are always coming. And then one is actually situated in the self. So we have to practice on a daily basis. And then by Krishna's mercy, one can advance, and is explained here that nibadhnanti, karmāṇi nibadhnanti, one is not bound by the reactions of one's work. If one is properly situated, one is doing everything for Krishna's pleasure, there's no reaction to one's work. In devotional service, there's no real reaction. Especially if one is doing with love and affection, priti purvak, bhakti with bhakti, then one is properly situated. And there's no reaction. There's no more birth and death for one who is properly situated. So by the mercy of Kṛṣṇa or the spiritual master, by dint of, as Prabhupada is writing here, by the grace of transcendental knowledge. So this transcendental knowledge is the mercy of the Lord. As he's explaining here to Arjuna for our benefit, that is his mercy. Shabda Brahman, this transcendental sound, transcendental knowledge. That we have to, therefore Prabhupada also instructed his disciples that every day they should hear the Bhagavad-gītā in the morning, and evening the Bhagavad-gītā, and then also we may read the other books, and Prabhupada wanted that we should study 1 hour a day, the other books which are there, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in this way, by gaining this knowledge and by acting on that knowledge, by implementing that in one's life, so practical application has to be there. Trying to hear and then trying to see that we can, in our practical life, we can be properly situated. So, the first part of this knowledge is simply to understand that Kṛṣṇa exists, that we are not his body, and we have a relationship, sambandha jnana. And the second is that we have to be engaged in various devotional activities, sadhana bhakti, following rules and regulations, and being engaged under the instructions of the Spirit Master, especially in the age of Kali, by chanting the holy names, the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So by chanting the holy names, and then by serving the Lord, and the Archa Vigraha, and by hearing from the Spirit Master, by reading the scriptures, by gaining this transcendental knowledge, then actually our faith will increase. We become fixed, and then we will have strong faith that yes, by following this process we will be successful. And then also there will be realization, and then one will be properly situated, and then true humility will be there. So true humility is there when one is practically understanding one's insignificant position as the eternal servant of Kṛṣṇa. And then one will be very, very tolerant. One can tolerate all difficulties. One will be always humble, meek and humble, not thinking I'm very special. But he will feel that I'm actually insignificant. Because the soul, as we know from the scriptures, is infinitesimal. It is mentioned in the scriptures that if you take the tip of the hair, which you can hardly see, one hair is difficult to see, but we may see, and then the tip of that is, we can hardly see. So if you take that and you cut it 100 times, we cannot do that with a knife or anything. Only maybe the scientists, they may be able to do that, cutting the tip of the hair 100 times. But further than that, they will not be able to do. But it is mentioned in scriptures, if you take the tip of the hair, you cut it 100 times, and that again in 100 times. That is the size of the soul. And that is, of course, situated in the heart region, floating in the 5 life airs, which are there in the body, beyond the gross body, but situated in the heart region, and ultimately it is beyond the subtle body of the ahankar, the conception that I'm a man or a woman, I'm this or that, or the intelligence, material intelligence, consciousness, or the material mind. So we have to come to that platform, to that understanding that I'm very, very insignificant. So if you are realizing that, then you're really humble. If you're realizing I'm infinitesimal, how it can be puffed up and thinking I'm something special? Not possible. So the advanced devotees, they have realized the transcendental nature. And then when one is properly situated on the transcendental platform, as a practicing devotee, and by the chanting of the holy names, then one's spiritual nature will slowly but surely manifest. Satchidananda Vigraha, so the soul is there, and the soul is eternal, and by nature it is full of knowledge and full of bliss. So as we continue in our spiritual life, we can feel that we are different from this body, and then we can slowly but surely understand the transcendental nature, eternal nature of the Supreme Lord and our nature. And as we gain knowledge, more and more knowledge, transcendental knowledge, realized knowledge, then we'll be peaceful. One will attain peace, shanti. And one will feel so much transcendental bliss. Anand, Paramanand. Because Kṛṣṇa is the source of all transcendental bliss. So if you're connected to Him, if you're serving Him, then there's a transcendental loving exchange. So Kṛṣṇa is always ātma-vantam, self-satisfied, and is not needing of anything of this world. Even he doesn't need anybody to give him pleasure. He's self-satisfied. At the same time, by his own potencies, he has manifested so much opulence in the spiritual world, and of course he manifested also this material world through his external energy. But then, in order to increase his own pleasure, so his associates are there. And in loving exchange with his associates, his eternal associates, Kṛṣṇa, although is fully satisfied by nature and complete and perfect and is unlimited, but still, in the loving exchange with his devotees, his transcendental pleasure is increasing also. And the devotees or the associates in the loving exchange with Kṛṣṇa, they are feeling also so much transcendental pleasure. Anandam buddhivādanam pratipadam purnam rittasvaranam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Kṛṣṇa sankirtanam. And in the age of Kali, by the chanting of the holy names, the Mahamantra Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We can experience this transcendental pleasure more and more. The devotees who have attained a taste for chanting the holy names, Nam Ruchi, They are never tired of chanting the holy names. They can go on for hours and they feel ever new pleasure because they have realized by chanting the holy names that these holy names are not different from the person. Nama Chintamani Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Pona Shodanina Muktabhinatva Nama Namina. So Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Nam, they are not different. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So Kṛṣṇa Nam is transcendental. It's like a touchstone. Fully conscious. Kṛṣṇa Nam is no different from Kṛṣṇa himself, Satchidananda Swarup. Rasa Vigraha, the source of all transcendental mellows. Akila Rasamrita Murti. Krishna is the source of all transcendental mellows. As we know in the spiritual world, the gopis are there, Maria Yashoda, Nanda Baba. So there is a transcendental mellow known as Ras. The highest being the conjugal mellow, the conjugal relationship between Krishna and gopis. Adiras, the original mellow, Madhurya Ras, the very sweet mellow of the conjugal relationship between Krishna and his gopis, who are his eternal associates and who are manifestations of the internal potency, Hiladini Shakti, Mahabhav Swarupini, the embodiment of the highest transcendental emotions, Srimati Radharani. So they are most expert in giving Krishna the highest pleasure. But then even Maria Yashoda, Nanda Baba, so there's a very wonderful relationship. They are known as Vatsalya Ras, the parental affection. Maria Yashoda, Nanda Baba, although Krishna is the source of everything, but he has a father and a mother in the past time. And it's such a wonderful loving exchange. Even we can see in the material world, so these relationships are there, but in perverted form. And but if a couple is there, so there's some enjoyment there, and as a result of that, then children will be there, and they will take great pleasure in taking care of the children. So Vatsalya Ras. So what to speak of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and that is the eternal relationship of his parents and other elderly gopis. They think Krishna is my son, or they think Krishna is just like my son. And when Krishna, as in this material world also, the parents, they very much relish whatever the children are doing, especially when they are small, and they're just starting to walk or to talk. It is very sweet. But nothing in comparison to Krishna's sweetness. And when Krishna is talking and walking, it is very sweet. As one great poet has sung, that everything about Krishna is sweet. Ādaram, ādaram, vādaram, ādaram, nāyaram, ādaram, hāsitam, ādaram, hridayam, ādaram, gamanam, madaram, madhuradipatera kilam, madhuram. So Krishna's Adaram, his lips are sweet, his face is sweet, and his eyes are sweet. His walking is sweet, his heart is sweet. Everything about Krishna is sweet. Venur madara, venur madara, panir madara, padam madara, nittan madanam, sakyam madanam, madara dipatera kilam madaram. Krishna's flute, or Krishna's flute playing is very sweet. His transcendental hands are sweet. His transcendental feet are very sweet and very soft, pinkish in color. And also Krishna's transcendental form is bluish, dark blue, Shyam Sundar. But it is explained also, for example, when his friends are touching him, so that part which they are touching, then also becomes a little pinkish. Very sweet, just like soft butter. Very soft and sweet. So So everything about Krishna is sweet. His cows are sweet, his gopis are sweet, the Jamuna river is sweet, his dress is sweet, yellowish in color. So that is the relationship with his associates, especially in Braj, that is most sweet. It is known as Madhurya Dham. It is the abode of all sweetness. Why? Whereas in Vaikuntha, there's love there, there's some sweetness there, but there's some majesty there, also opulence, that the Supreme Lord is there. Therefore, there's some restraint is there. Love is there, pure love they will have, the associates in Vaikuntha. But because of the majesty which is there, that the Supreme Lord is there and I'm the servant, so the relationship is not as intimate, is not as sweet as in Golok. In Golok, there's no concept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, is the source of all opulence. No, Krishna is my beloved. Krishna is my son. Krishna is my best friend. And so then embracing Krishna. And there's so much love is there. Abundant love and sweetness is there. Even the servants in Braj, they also experience this sweetness in the loving exchange with Krishna. That is only there in Golok. And we are actually very fortunate because by the mercy of the Lord Himself, of course, by Mahaprabhu's arrangement. So we are very fortunate to be in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Kali Yuga Avatar. And he established the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy names, the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And simply by chanting the holy names, then we can make rapid advancement in our spiritual life. And that is not so difficult to chant the holy names. There are not any hard and fast rules. And anyone can chant the holy names at any time. Even while taking prasadam, you may chant the holy names in between. Even sometimes in the circles of the Vaishnavas, exalted personalities, sometimes there's a bandara, there's a feast, and the Mahatmas are called, and they're given prasadam, and then they will take prasadam, and then in between, sometimes we have seen that also, then one of the sadhus will chant some mantras in glorification of the holy names, like Madhuram Madhure Bhyopi Mangale Bhyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavane Bhyopi Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. And then everyone will hear and then everyone will chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Madhuram Madhure Bhyopi. Krishna Nam, because Krishna Nam is not different from Krishna. More sweet than the sweetest thing in this world. So especially, of course, the Vaishnavas, or usually most people, they like sweets. Anyone like sweets? Who likes sweets? Rasgulla, Rasmalai, Sandesh, Burfi. Very sweet, very nice. So but Krishna is more sweet than Rasgulla. And then so many processes of purification are there. But most important is chanting the holy names. That is most purifying. And that is the most auspicious and activity, that is chanting the holy names. And that is actually the means to attain love of Godhead, to realize Krishna's Swarup and our Swarup, Krishna's form and our own transcendental form and relationship. So So therefore, so by chanting the holy names and then by following the instructions of the spiritual master, and our good fortune that we are in Mahaprabhu Sampradaya, we can easily advance in spiritual life, and we can attain the highest form of devotional service, which is Braj Bhakti. So we are very fortunate, so we should take full advantage of our good fortune. And we are most fortunate also to be in Braj, where Krishna is performing his wonderful pastimes. We can go any time to any of these places and hear about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna in this world. And by going there, by hearing the wonderful pastimes, for example, at the Radhakund or Vashana, Nandagaon, or other places, the 12 forests are there in Braj, where Krishna performed his pastimes. So when we go to these places and hear about the pastimes of Krishna with his associates, then we can become absorbed in that. And then we can feel transcendental pleasure, and then we can advance more and more. And then we'll be not bound to our activities. By performing devotional service, especially with love and affection, bhakti yoga, then we are properly situated and we are free from the cycle of birth and death. And so that is ultimately the goal of life, to be fully absorbed in Krishna consciousnness in the loving exchange with Krishna. So by gaining this knowledge, as Krishna is giving to Arjuna, or as we can receive from the spiritual master, and then by following the instructions received from the spiritual master, and so residing in the holy dham and worshipping the deities, then we can very nicely advance, then ultimately success will be there, that we'll realize our true self, and then we can enter the pastimes of the Lord, and then enjoy eternal life in relationship with Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any question? No question, everything is clear? Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki